Subscribe to the channel and hear even more exciting stories. AITA for skipping my sister's wedding due to my husband's exclusion. Hi Reddit. Longtime lurker, first-time poster, and honestly, I wish my debut was for something a little less nuclear. I guess I'm looking for perspective, or maybe just somewhere to vent, because my family group chat is on fire and my husband keeps trying to be the bigger person. Spoiler, I am currently not the bigger person. Let me set the scene. I, 32F, have always had a complicated relationship with my little sister, Emma, 28F. She's the golden child, the one who got the perfect grades, the lead roles in every school play, and the kind of unshakable confidence you only get from being everyone's favorite. Our parents never tried to hide their pride. Emma was their prodigy, and I was, well, dependable, I guess. Solid B+ energy. Emma and I aren't enemies, exactly. We're just so different. I'm practical and a little sarcastic. She's the peacemaker, but also the first to burst into tears when things don't go her way. Despite all our differences, we've always shown up for each other. Birthdays, breakups, the time she accidentally dyed her hair green, and I helped her hide it from Mom. I thought that counted for something. Now, my husband, Mike, 35M, is not everyone's cup of tea. He's introverted, dry sense of humor, definitely not the life of any party. But he loves me fiercely and has always had my back, even when it means being the awkward guy at family events. Over the years, he's clashed with my parents. They think he's standoffish, and Emma, she thinks he's judgmental. But I figured, we're all adults. No one has to be best friends. I never imagined my sister's wedding would become a battleground. Looking back, maybe I missed the early signs. Snide comments at Christmas, Emma dodging conversations about guest lists, my mom's weirdly tight-lipped attitude any time I brought up wedding plans. I just chalked it up to pre-wedding nerves. Then the invitation arrived, and everything blew up. So, the wedding invitation came in this fancy gold envelope. Very Emma. There was calligraphy, pressed flowers, all the Pinterest touches. At first, I was excited, despite my suspicions. But when I opened it, my stomach dropped. The envelope was addressed to Anna Smith. Just me. No +1. No Anna and Mike. I double-checked the RSVP card, thinking maybe it was a mistake. Nope, just my name. I tried to convince myself there had to be some explanation. Maybe they were doing a super small ceremony. Maybe Mike's name got left off by accident. Maybe Emma was sending separate invites. Yes, I was grasping at straws. So I called her. She picked up on the third ring, voice chirpy like nothing was wrong. I asked as casually as I could, "Hey, did Mike's invite get lost in the mail?" There was this tiny pause, barely a second, but enough to set off every alarm bell in my head. Emma said, "Oh, I was meaning to call you about that. Mike isn't really invited. I want to keep things simple, you know? Fewer complications on the guest list." She sounded almost apologetic, but also rehearsed. I pressed her, "What does that mean?" "He's my husband." She dodged. "It's not personal, Anna. It's just family and really close friends." I felt like I'd been slapped. Mike has been at every family function for the past 8 years. He's as family as anyone else there. My voice cracked when I told her I couldn't believe she'd do this, and she immediately started in with, "I'm not trying to hurt you, but you know how Mom and Dad feel about him. I just want my day to be drama-free." When I got off the phone, I just sat there, staring at the RSVP like it might change if I looked hard enough. Mike came in, saw my face, and didn't even need to ask. He just sighed, hugged me, and said, "It's okay. You should go. Don't let me be the reason you miss your sister's wedding." And that, of course, only made me feel worse. I wish I could say I handled it with calm maturity, but honestly, I spent the next few days oscillating between furious and devastated. Every time I tried to talk it through with Mike, he just kept saying, "It's your family, Anna. Don't make this about me." But it was about him. How could it not be? The pressure started immediately. My mom called, suspiciously cheerful, asking if I'd RSVP'd yet, and dropping not-so-subtle hints about how important this day is for Emma. I asked her, straight up, why Mike was excluded. She sighed like I was being difficult and said, "Honey, we just want everyone to have a good time. You know how he and your father can be." Translation: they didn't want Mike there making anyone uncomfortable. AKA, refusing to fake laugh at Dad's outdated jokes or disagreeing with Emma about her gluten-free wedding cake. On the other side, Mike was hurt, but trying to be stoic. He insisted he didn't care, but I could tell it stung. The way he avoided talking about it, or joked about having a whole Saturday to himself. Classic Mike defense mechanism. My friends, meanwhile, were divided. Half said, "It's her day, she can invite whoever she wants," while the others thought I should skip the wedding out of solidarity. I tried to find some kind of compromise. I texted Emma, suggesting maybe Mike could just come to the ceremony, not the reception, or vice versa. She shot it down, claiming it would make things weird. I even asked if there was someone specific who didn't want him there. Dad, maybe? Emma said, "It's just easier this way, Anna. Please don't make this harder." That stung. Like I was the one causing drama for expecting my marriage to matter. I started losing sleep, snapping at Mike for no reason, feeling caught between loyalty to the people who raised me and the man I promised to put first. No matter which way I turned, someone would be disappointed. I just didn't know who I was willing to disappoint yet. Eventually, the tension boiled over. It started with another phone call from my mom, who wanted to know if I'd picked out a dress yet, and, more importantly, if I was coming to my senses. I finally snapped. Why is it so easy for everyone to pretend Mike isn't my husband? Why does Emma get to erase him from my life for her big day? The line went silent. Then Mom sighed that tired, martyrish sigh I know too well. "Anna, this isn't about you. Don't make this a bigger issue." That was it. I called Emma, hands shaking, and let it all out. "How can you say you love me, but not respect my marriage? What has Mike done to deserve this?" Emma's voice was brittle. "Anna, you always do this, make everything about you. Can't you just let me have one day without drama?" She trotted out the same excuses. She wanted things simple. Dad didn't want Mike there. It's just family. I told her Mike is my family. She started crying, accusing me of ruining her wedding. Next was Dad. He barely disguised his irritation, saying, "Mike's not easy to be around, Anna. You know that. Can't you just respect your sister's wishes for once?" I felt like a kid again, desperate for approval, being told I was difficult for asking to be treated fairly. Then there was Mike. I expected him to be angry, but he just looked exhausted. "I don't want to be the wedge between you and your family," he said. "But I also don't want you to pretend this is okay. You're allowed to be mad." Everyone tried to guilt trip me. Mom with her, "After all we've done for you." Emma with her tears. Dad with his cold logic. Even Mike, with his martyr routine, made me feel responsible for everyone's happiness. I realized I was being asked to choose between my marriage and my family's comfort. And whichever way I chose, someone would call me selfish. For the first time, I wondered if loving both sides was enough, or if I'd end up losing both. The days leading up to the RSVP deadline felt like walking through mud. Every phone call, every text from my family, was laced with unspoken judgment. Emma flooded her Instagram with bridal bliss posts, and every time I saw the hashtag family first, I wanted to throw my phone out the window. Even at work, I couldn't focus. My mind was running circles. Was I selfish for being so upset? Was Mike right to want me to stand up for him? Was my family really asking too much, or was I just too sensitive? Guilt gnawed at me. Every time Mike caught me staring into space, he'd squeeze my hand and try to lighten the mood. "At least you won't have to sit through hours of interpretive dance." I laughed, but it felt hollow. I knew he was hurting, no matter how much he joked. I caught him looking at our wedding photos one night when he thought I was asleep, and it broke my heart. I was angry too. Angry at Emma for putting me in this position, at my parents for backing her up, at Mike for not being more visibly upset, which somehow felt like another kind of betrayal, and at myself for not knowing how to fix it. Old family wounds reopened. All the times I felt like the extra daughter, the times Emma's feelings took precedence over mine. Now, my marriage, something I'd fought hard to build, felt like collateral damage in my sister's fairy tale. Doubt crept in. Maybe I was making too much of it. Maybe if I just went alone, it would blow over. But every time I pictured walking into that wedding without Mike, smiling for photos, pretending everything was fine, I felt a knot in my stomach. I'd always been the peacemaker, but now it seemed like keeping the peace meant betraying my own husband. Was I willing to sacrifice my marriage's dignity for my sister's perfect day? I felt like I was drowning in other people's expectations, gasping for a breath that never came. Something had to give. The RSVP deadline loomed over me like a storm cloud. Every day, Another reminder pinged from Emma or my mom. Cheery little nudges, as if nothing was wrong. Meanwhile, Mike stayed gentle, careful, quietly hurting. He kept telling me he'd understand either way, but the space between us grew heavier, stretched tight by everything we weren't saying. One night, after a particularly tense dinner where I barely touched my food, Mike finally broke the silence. "Anna, I love you. If you need to go, go. But I don't want you to do something that'll make you resent me later." His voice was soft, but it stung. That's when I realized, no matter what I chose, resentment was inevitable. Either I'd resent my family for forcing my hand, or I'd resent myself for leaving Mike out in the cold. So I sat down with the RSVP card in front of me, hands shaking. I thought about our wedding, about how much it meant to have my people there supporting me. I thought about every time Emma's feelings had come first, every time my parents called me, the dramatic one, for standing my ground. I thought about the promise I made to Mike when we married, that he was my family now, too. I ticked the will not attend box. My heart pounded so loudly I half expected Emma to text me in that instant. I sent her a message. "I can't come to your wedding if my husband isn't welcome. I hope you understand why. I love you, but I have to do what's right for my marriage." Then I turned off my phone and crawled into bed, shaking and exhausted, but a strange, fierce sense of relief blooming in my chest. For the first time in weeks, I slept through the night. I'd made my choice, not out of anger, but out of loyalty to the life I was building, not the one my family still wanted me to play. I had no idea what fallout was coming, but at least, for once, I hadn't betrayed myself. The backlash, when it came, was immediate and brutal. I woke up to a dozen missed calls from my mom, 3 from my dad, and a string of texts from Emma, so long my phone froze trying to load them. My mother's voicemail was predictably melodramatic. "Anna, I can't believe you'd abandon your own sister. Family is everything." Emma's messages swung between pleading, "Please, Anna, don't do this to me on my wedding day," and furious, "You're making this all about you, as usual." My dad, ever the pragmatist, sent a single, cold message. "You've made your choice. Don't expect us to change the guest list now." For a moment, I panicked. Maybe I'd gone too far. Maybe I was selfish. But then I looked at Mike, who just reached for my hand under the breakfast table, silent but solid. The days that followed were some of the loneliest of my life. Friends picked sides. Some applauded my backbone. Others told me I should have just gone. It's only one day. My parents stopped calling. Emma's fiancé, who'd always been polite but distant, sent a short, awkward email. "Hope you and Mike are well. Sorry about all this." I wanted to scream. Where was the support when it actually mattered? Mike, meanwhile, was careful with me, but I could see the guilt in his eyes. He asked, more than once, if I regretted it. I told him the truth. "I regret that it came to this, but not what I chose." It didn't erase the sting, but it meant something that he believed me. Then came the wedding weekend. Photos trickled in from cousins, all smiling in pastel dresses, Emma glowing in white, my parents beaming beside her. No one called, no one texted, not even a passive-aggressive "wish you were here." I cried in the shower, then dried off and took Mike out for greasy burgers and a bad movie, just to prove I could. But under the anger and sadness, there was a strange, steely pride. I'd stood up for us. I just hadn't realized how high the cost would be. In the weeks after the wedding, my life felt strangely suspended, like I was living underwater. Old routines returned. Work, errands, the lazy Sunday mornings with Mike. But something fundamental had shifted. My family's silence became a constant background hum, both infuriating and liberating. I missed them, of course. I missed the mindless chatter, the group texts, the way Emma and I used to snark about our relatives behind their backs. I even missed my mom's relentless holiday planning, her spreadsheets, her unsolicited advice. But beneath the ache, there was a stubborn sense of clarity. I'd done what I believed was right, even when it made me the villain in my family's story. That mattered to me. It forced me to re-examine every pattern that had led to this. How often I'd let myself become small to avoid rocking the boat. How many times I'd swallowed my own discomfort to keep the peace. I realized I wasn't just mourning the wedding. I was grieving a version of myself I could never be again. The one who bent until she nearly broke, all for the sake of being good. Mike and I had our share of rough conversations. He admitted he felt guilty for being the wedge, even if it wasn't his fault. I told him I'd do it all again, and I meant it. There were awkward dinners with friends who didn't know what to say. There were lonely nights when I scrolled through family photos and wondered if they missed me, too, or just the way I used to make everything easy for them. Sometimes, I wished I could have found some magical solution that didn't end with so many hurt feelings. But the more I sat with it, the more I understood, you can't keep everyone happy without losing yourself in the process. If I'd caved, if I'd gone to that wedding alone, I'd have sent a message to my husband and to myself that our marriage was optional. That wasn't a lesson I was willing to teach. As the weeks faded into months, the silence from my family lingered but grew less sharp. I sent Emma a card on her birthday. Just a simple, wishing you joy. Nothing more, nothing less. She replied with a texted thank you, formal and distant. My parents reached out around Thanksgiving, inviting us for dinner if we were up for it. The olive branch was more of a twig, but I took it anyway. Mike and I went, and it was awkward. Polite small talk, careful avoidance of anything wedding-related, as if that huge tear in the fabric of our family had been patched over with a too small square of politeness. But I could feel something different in myself. For the first time, I didn't sit quietly and let myself be ignored. When my father started to make a snide remark about Mike's quietness, I calmly said, "He doesn't have to be loud to be family." My mom changed the subject, but something in the room shifted. Maybe it was small, but it felt like a reclamation. Mike and I grew closer. I could tell he still carried some guilt, but he stopped apologizing for being himself. We built new rituals, new inside jokes, new memories untethered from my family's expectations. We learned how to laugh at the absurdity of it all, like the time Emma sent out a group Christmas email and addressed us as Anna and guest. I won't pretend everything is magically fixed. Family wounds are stubborn, and holidays are still complicated. Sometimes, I still catch myself wishing for a different ending. A big, emotional reunion, hugs, apologies, someone admitting they were wrong. But the reality is quieter. It's choosing, again and again, not to shrink myself just to fit back into an old mold. What's left is real. My marriage is stronger. My sense of self is clearer. The lines I drew to protect my own happiness are no longer shaky pencil marks. They're firm, permanent. I might never get my old family dynamic back, but I've gained something better, the freedom to belong fully to the life and the person I chose. Now, looking back, the whole wedding fiasco feels both impossibly dramatic and heartbreakingly simple. I used to believe family meant unconditional support, a soft place to land no matter what. But sometimes, family asks you to choose between loyalty to them and loyalty to yourself. I used to think I had to pick, that pleasing everyone was the goal. I know now that's impossible, and more importantly, it's not even healthy. My biggest lesson? You teach people how to treat you by what you tolerate. For years, I downplayed my own needs, let my sister's feelings eclipse my own, allowed my parents to set the terms of acceptable love. The wedding was just the flashpoint. When I finally drew the line, it was terrifying. I lost the illusion of perfect family harmony. But I gained a kind of peace I'd never known. The peace of standing up for myself and the life I've chosen with Mike. For anyone else stuck in that impossible tug of war, torn between blood and chosen bonds, please hear me. You're not selfish for valuing your own marriage, your boundaries, or your happiness. You can grieve what you lost and still protect what matters most. It's okay to disappoint people who expect you to disappear for their comfort. There's no tidy bow here. My relationship with my family is changed, maybe forever. Some days that hurts. But I don't regret my choice. Not for a minute. My marriage is worth defending. My sense of self is worth more than a seat at a table where my husband isn't welcome. So, AITA for skipping my sister's wedding because my husband was excluded? Some people still think so. But I've learned that sometimes, the only way forward is to risk being the villain in someone else's story to be the hero in your own. And honestly, I can live with that. If you're facing your own impossible choice, I hope my story gives you the courage to stand up for yourself. Even if your voice shakes, even if it costs you. Sometimes, choosing yourself is the bravest thing you'll ever do.